All right, good morning, trustees. We are here for the December 4th, 2023 Georgetown ISD Board Workshop. Today on our agenda, first of all, we want to pause for any public comments. I'm not sure if we have no public comments, and we will move right forward. Today, in today's workshop, we are talking about an update on attendance zones. We have gone through a week of collecting feedback, and we have made some proposals to some of that feedback that we honestly want to workshop with you. So we're going to show you what we're thinking, and we invite your questions and just thoughts on how we can continue to work the problem. As you know, trustees, we have moved the deadline for reaching the decision points into January's board meeting, which gives us enough time to reach the best decision. One of the ideas that I once had shared with me is always ask yourself how long the runway is, and do not make a decision before you reach close to the end of that runway, because a lot of information comes forward prior to making those decisions. I do want to share with you kind of this little graphic as we talk about the complexity of the work that's taking place. And I just want to thank everyone around this table for their input into it, but in particular, I want to thank Len Heflin, sorry about that, Kirby Campbell, tongue-tied today, and Wes Benechek, in just really wrestling with this and talking to our demographer and trying to come up with the best possible proposal. But we're really working to find this zone of overlap with 3 competing needs. We want to open a new campus, and that's San Gabriel Elementary, and to some degree it's New Benoni. We want to relieve overcrowding at some of our campuses, and we want to minimize rezoning in future years. Something that really emerged out of this week is really looking at like into the future, a few steps ahead, and thinking about, will the rezoning we do now cause us to rezone the same neighborhoods into the future, or at the next time a school opens? And to some degree, some of that is unavoidable, but where can we avoid it? So we're looking to get as close to that sweet spot in the middle as possible. I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Heflin.
So you have the handouts in front of you, and the maps are a little hard to see detail on, so feel free to ask where the roads are and landmarks if it's helpful. Wanted to just kind of lead the conversation off by giving the context of what you're going to be seeing. Elementary schools plans 6, 7, and 8. Middle school plans 4 and 5 are mixed within this this presentation. The public meetings that we had all of last week, and then we'll have 3 more of this week, where we go to the schools and meet the citizens who want to come and talk, parents and citizens who want to come and talk. They've seen plans 6 and 7, and they've seen plan 4 from the middle school and elementary perspective. So plans 8 and 5 are representative of having taken that input and making adjustments that not only speak to the Venn diagram that Dr. Campbell pointed out, but also represent the opinions and thoughts and quite frankly some really great ideas we got from our citizens that helped us shape this. So I've been really excited about those conversations, because each one has been an invitation for participation, and we've had plenty of participation, lots of participation. And so we also have a form online that is gathering folks' input that can't come to the meeting. We're up to about, I think, right at 150 responses. And so we're going through those as well. So you're gonna come to this takeaway moment with us today, where we have kind of a crossroads of doing extensive rezoning now that would result in a more balanced enrollment in our schools, waiting for new schools to be built. Right, that part will go away. More balanced until that moment. It requires a lot more moving of families to get balanced until we'll call it fall of 26. The other option is to do moderate rezoning, leaving our schools larger until we can build more schools and open them, hopefully fall of 26, right? So it's how much movement do we want to do rezoning wise, and and disruption-wise heading into those new builds. So that's the theme, okay? So from there, let's talk just a little bit about elementary school plan 6, 7, and 8. And what I'm going to do is walk you through where we were and where we are now to kind of give you, and then at the end of each of the maps, you'll see a breakout of the table that you're used to seeing that turns yellow and green, right? So this is our problem we're trying to solve right now. We have Williams, Wolf, Mitchell, Cooper that are either almost at or already over capacity. And the plan that we're, obviously the priority is still we need to open San Gabriel Elementary, right? Priority 1, that's overly populated. And while we're at it, work to alleviate some of these capacity issues. So plan 6 elementary school, this is the plan that the public's already been seeing, everyone's comment on, has us opening San Gabriel around 400 students. Roughly 25 of those from the North 4 area up there, and about 365 from the rest of Wolf Ranch. Feedback we got was that the areas that was intended to be zoned south of 29, which unfortunately is where a lot of the student body for San Gabriel, that's what most of the students are. It's that those families are, they let us know that's not what they want. And then we also know that turning left on the 29 highway is treacherous, to say the least. So working from that feedback, Plan 7 almost doesn't have that area zone. So now it's talking about where do students come from differently. So same Ford model here, but you'll notice that 240 student opening is pretty small if we don't take that area over 29. The area that's purple is Oak Crest and Green Ridge area that would be zoned Frost. We had unfortunately someone came to one of our meetings and created a screenshot and a map of their own and shared it with the community of Hilltop, which for whatever reason they decided to say we were zoning that area to San Gabriel, which never was said, never was in the plan. But this is the map they saw in Plan 7, which was zoning Oak Crest and Village, or Oak Crest and Green Ridge Village. Okay? So this plan doesn't work super well because it's really low enrollment for opening San Gabriel. So what we're looking at for Plan 8 is, and this is based on some really good community feedback as well, it delves more into the far west and north forward zone. Those families that can easily jump on Ronald Reagan and be down to San Gabriel very quickly. Puts it about 290, and we know that with student transfers in, probably closer to 300.
Real quick question, because I don't see it on the chart from earlier. The capacity at San Gabriel, is it the same as our other new elementaries? It is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, sometimes it'll say elementary 11, depending on, so wherever you see elementary 11, that's San Gabriel, wherever there's not a capacity, it's going to be 50. So basically you see the far west edge, you see the little 7 students that we would zone 2 for, and that's just basically that Heritage Ranch area doesn't have a good road to get. You have to pretty much drive all the way past Ford to get all the way back around. So that one, that family, the families in that neighborhood gave us that feedback. And then the same 24 students going to Village.
Trustees, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
I just want to put it, or make it clear that as we talk about the opening of San Gabriel, Landon did mention that neighborhood south of 29 let us know that's not what they want. And to some degree, that's always going to be true anytime we talk about a school rezoning. But as we looked at this, we had significant concerns about the safety of turning left onto 29 out of that south of 29 neighborhoods. That it caused us to really look at this Plan 8. And then the other challenge with opening San Gabriel is just that accessibility to that area. From some of those areas where proximity-wise it looks closer than Ford, the pathway to getting there.
To the same point you make there, Chuck. This area is also an area that in future bonds, should there be additional elementaries in this area, we sent them to San Gabriel and likely be candidates to go to be rezoned again. So kind of leaving them put protects that third prong of the diagram.
It's great to understand that. Yeah. Will that be explained to people? Will people know that?
I mean, I don't want to take, I mean, those are the talking points for these community meetings that Lance and those.
I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah, and then we're a little bit limited in, you know, first person audiences like that, and so word of mouth and our ability to get folks to kind of echo that sentiment would be super helpful. But yeah,
After we work through this week, our plan is to continue to discuss this at listening sessions and throughout the community. And then as well, we're going to send out communication to the district to talk about the why behind Plan 8.
Can I ask a question? On the current 24 students, Oak Crest to, where is Oak Crest to and where is Green Ridge area? Okay, so you tell me road wide, are we talking on 29 and what?
So this is PD1 that goes by the dam,
Yes,
and this is the Oak Point, Kirby?
Oak Ridge.
Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge is the entrance into the dam.
that's the road that's off of DB Wood, yes.
That's
In
correct.
the Oak Crest,
Right
yes.
here.
And where is Greenwood?
Green Ridge, it's right where, go left, left. Okay, so right there.
Okay.
That's where Green Ridge is.
Okay, and so we're talking about these what were known as the subdivisions? Okay.
Yeah, they are adjacent to that village zone already, and north of what's known as the Wolf Ranch development.
So where are they going now?
Currently Wolf Ranch.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, so that's the plan, that's plans 6, 7, and 8% here. Well, so far, this plan that we want to continue to talk about opens the school with more students and addresses those rezoning challenges that we're talking about. Big rezoning challenges.
Can I ask another question about in the future? Are there subdivisions laid out that are along 40, along Reagan for San Diego? Is that the imminent future or what does that look like?
There's quite a bit of development in that area. I don't have that to show today, but our new auditor has a lot of big developed lots of futures in that area.
Well, I know around San Diego there is, but are there other developments that are between San Diego Elementary and Bonolo that are opening
Yeah,
up?
Wes, when you went to that area where you showed us all that dirt,
Yeah, so right in here, the Farmers development.
What is,
that's right
oh,
on
Farm
Farmers.
Ranch, okay, that's one.
There's also some development that's further out, in Williams or 2338 out here. There's a little bit on the, what I call the north side of Ronald Reagan or the Farm Ranch area. And then, let's see, this is a different zone, but the fourth zone right here, right past Gabriel's Grove, is a new subdivision called Broken Oak. See, and they've got houses going up already.
Is currently Palmer Ranch going to Ford?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, this is current Ford, and we have it shown to remain Ford.
It's going to be a pretty big school, big when that Ford is going to be.
well,
What's the impact in Ford?
So right now, Ford is at a good population that allows it to grow some. And what we're really trying to do is, if you go back to those Venn diagrams, minimize rezoning this time so that when the next new school breaks ground, or not breaks ground, but is ready to open, we can consider kind of a master plan of the entire elementary school map and rezoning them to be appropriately sized with enough room for growth. But we are confident that over the next, gosh, I think 10 years out, the west part of Georgetown is going to continue to grow, where St. Gabriel Elementary will get to being 90% full.
This current Ford zone accommodates growth for about 10 years, looks like, based on demographic projections of known developments.
okay. So as you also know, we're working to mitigate capacity issues at Mitchell and Williams, as well as Wolf Ranch. And so the plan 6 and 7 had us rezoning that large turquoise area that's currently in the Williams zone to Mitchell, about 145 students. In plan 8, we would not do that. We would leave them zoned to Wolf Ranch, again, for the purposes of rezoning in the future with the opening of another elementary school, that's a nice group to rezone to a newly opened elementary school instead of to Mitchell and then back again. If that makes sense. So less movement for that group of students. Okay, Plan 6 and 7, we had roughly half of the Mitchell zone being zoned over to Cooper, and that was to give Mitchell the relief that it needed. Pearl, excuse me, thank you. Pearl, Mitchell to Pearl, to give them the relief they needed to take in those other students. We don't really need to do that if we're not moving those students in from that larger area. And so we can leave that zone in Plan 8, leave that zone intact for Mitchell. So basically, it's not rezoning that route between Plan 7 and 8. Okay. So the other relief plan that we've seen for Carver hasn't changed. It's the Plan 6, 7, and 8, the relief Williams into Carver in that sort of unfortunate area that's stuck between Williams and Wolf that has Williams and Wolf. It's caught zoning back and forth as we try to relieve those two capacities. That Carver zone is in between. So, we know there'll be some little bit of stretching in the rezoning in that area as we open new schools, but I want to minimize that by not overdoing it.
So just to underscore what Landon just laid out for you, Williams is definitely a school where we need relief from overcrowding, or at least thinking of the next couple of years. But we rezone Mitchell, and we rezone Pearl, and our Citizens Advisory Committee and the school board calls for a bond in the spring. When an elementary opens in the east side in 2 years, we would likely have to rezone all those neighborhoods again. And so what we're proposing in Plan 8 is that we leave Mitchell, for a large part, leave Mitchell unrezoned and leave Pearl unrezoned and rezone a portion of Williams to Carver.
Okay. Cooper Plan 6, 7, and 8 is the same. There's a large population of students who live in the very north part of the Cooper zone that allows them to kind of equal distance between Frost and Cooper with a transportation route that we are reviewing based on some feedback we got about the road and the left-hand turn up there. We're taking that and looking at that. So for now, that plan is as is. And okay, so here's the difference between 6, 7, and 8. So in Plan 6, you see a lot of rezoning, a lot of moving parts, and then rezoning again when school's open. But it gives us the balance that you've seen before in each of these presentations, right up to the opening of schools in 2026. Plan 7, pretty much you can see Wolf gets full again around 2025. And then Plan 8, Wolf and Williams both get full again by 2025 with the opportunity then for the board of citizens to allow us to open a couple more schools. That's what we needed. And we go to middle school next. I'm going to pause for that and for questions.
So putting the 12th elementary school on the east side will basically buy us until 2029 for capacity at those schools.
Yes, sir, probably.
So we'd end up basically zoning these kids twice over a 6-year period.
Over 6 years, over 2 years.
With our growth is actually pretty long.
But is the new school on the east side going to help with Wolf Ranch, or we think
It's that little Carver sliver I was talking about. That's the one group we're just having a hard
I
time.
mean, I think it'll keep you just ahead, but it's not gonna, I mean, the portables don't go away.
Otherwise, it's the same three rules.
It's also worth discussing with the Citizens Advisory Committee, just the placement of one singular elementary school or perhaps two in order to accommodate what we know is going to happen.
Southwest elementary school would be elementary.
And then the timing of this decision versus the timing of the bond decision as well. We're gonna make this decision in January and the bond decision in February. And there's no way to push this to a line until we actually know.
That is correct, but what we are planning on doing in the December Citizens Advisory Committee is actually merging these two conversations. talking about attendance, and we're talking attendance zones, and we're talking about facilities at the same time. So we have the same thinking around the same challenge.
Right, because we're making the assumption they're gonna see what we're seeing.
That is correct.
Okay, let's talk middle school, plans 4 and 5. So same problem, previously before, Wagner, Tippett, back and forth between the schools. So the opening of the Knoll Middle School zone hasn't changed between plans that you were in, so 4 and 5 stay the same with regards to where those students come from. It's still going to be a split meter pattern between Georgetown and East View. They're not doing anything to change anything about high school patterns. So that's not different. But we were working to balance some Wagner and Tippett enrollment capacity. And so Plan 4 had the large area just basically east of I-35, and all the way to 1460, that is currently all Wagner, kind of where the arrow in that area, would be zoned to Tippett, and leaving that small sliver at the bottom because of the east access of roads over to Wagner. Plan 5, however, picks up a little bit more of the Wagner zone and moves into Tippett. Again, this is future-proofing this area. That's that kind of that unfortunate sliver. When we have the opportunity to go to Tippett Middle School, there's a group of students. But the good news about middle school, we have to keep reminding ourselves, students are only in the middle for 3 years, right? So the ping pong feels less impactful. Although we have to respect that families have siblings of all ages, and so that there's an emotional component to that as well. You don't go to middle school where your big brother did or your sister. And so about 190 students, probably more by the time we get there. The helping Tippett and the north area, this area of town we're sitting in right now, this north part of Old Town, kind of Santa Claus looking hat of best way to describe that shape, right? The Tippett zone is currently zoned, or could be zoned in the future to Forbes. And similarly, this area right here that's north of 29, that's in the Wagner zone, it's only 6 students live there right now, and there's not a lot of growth happening there. They would be zoned to Forbes as well, just so you have a continuous enrollment north of University. And in the area that's still Wagner, there's nobody really there. So Plan 4 and 5 still have those two northernmost areas of Tippett and Wagner going to Forbes to give those two schools some of the elbow room that they need. Okay, this big area, I'll have to point at this one so you can try not to stand up. But basically, all of this is currently in the Wagner zone. The idea would be those students would go to Forbes. That helps us in the future when we open a new middle school. That's an easy group to rezone in one area, in one direction. And we can say about 90 students that live there right now, middle school students. Okay, so this is what the two plans of 4 and 5 would look like side by side. Plan 5 has minimal rezoning compared to Plan 4.
Just to share with you the blindingly obvious, if we don't rezone middle school, we need, if we don't rezone middle school, we need another middle school ASAP. If we do this rezoning, it essentially buys us 2 additional years before we potentially have to ask the community for a bond to approve the next middle school. Now, ultimately, we're looking for the Citizens Advisory Committee's recommendation to you, but that will be the discussion we have at the next CAC, which is, as you are thinking about what to possibly recommend to the Board of Trustees, this could essentially save us taxpayer funds in this round.
So from there, we're gonna move on past the schools.
So which one is it that would impact the feeder plan that we have right now? Like how many students would be, because right now we've got pretty consistent feeder patterns up to the high schools.
Wouldn't be impacted much at all.
It wouldn't,
No.
okay, because I saw that the kids moving from Wagner Forbes would still then go back to East.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
just those two kids.
these plans don't change Eastfield Georgetown High School enrollment, the plans don't change the high school.
Are you asking if some of our middle schools are gonna be split feeders?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Forbes will be Vanol,
So that's new.
Yes,
But they'll still, will those students, that the middle school will be a split feeder pattern, but will they still be with the same cohort of their elementary to their high school?
from the Knoll perspective, yes. Right there.
if they were, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sure, I'll go back to that now. I can easier to look at it. So, students south of the river and lake currently are in the Wolf Ranch, and will be in San Gabriel. Those students will still go to East.
Okay.
So north of the river and the lake, San Gabriel and Ford,
But what middle school will they go to?
they'll all go to Middle. All of these students go to Middle.
Okay, so they're all going to split back to their East, but they'll be with their elementary cohort.
That is correct.
So it's
And
like
then
12 for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
if the Citizens Advisory Committee brings a proposal to you for the next high school, then that would completely change this group. Geographically, it's very likely that they would go to the next high school.
Well, that's not
We can
right. Okay. Any other thoughts on the maps before I talk about? So we did present the transfer considerations. Returning fifth and eighth graders would be able to stay at their schools. That hasn't changed. Siblings for 1 year as the consideration. We don't expect there will be space challenges, but with with the plans for schools that are going to stay large, that could come into a factor. We have to consider that as we get closer to that. And then, of course, our special programs such as dual language, and for those students to finish their dual language programs. Okay, we have our workshop today, board meeting on the 18th, bringing the final recommendation to you all on the 16th. And all that going well, we'll begin notifying families and transportation, we're working on routes and all that sort of thing.
Question. So how's the community attendance been on the public information meetings regarding attendance?
30, 40, no, about 100. We've been keeping signage for next week. Did you count those?
I would say Wolf Ranch and what was the one next night?
Mitchell.
Mitchell are the two highly attended ones.
Yeah.
Tippett Cooper had less.
Anywhere from 15 to 30.
Yeah.
I was trying to picture it in my head. I didn't look at the signage sheets to count.
With 3 coming up this week, is that
Yeah,
right?
it's Williams, Noel, and Carter.
And with our push timeline, we'll likely do one more in early June.
Has there been any overriding concern that you keep hearing about, or is it really specific to where you are?
The rezoning multiple times has come up consistently. There's one that's kind of hard because everyone notices how far away everything looks on a map, right? And the window of time to get you to and from school is very important to us. We want that to be enjoyable and safe and short as possible, but the time you have during the school day, the learning experience and relationships, that's so important. And we know that in overcrowded schools with not making the basketball team, if it's too big, the distance and proximity to the school takes priority over your school day experience. So those are, we hear, that's a long ways, yeah. It's not as close as we might have thought that we could go. And I'm not dismissing those, I'm just qualifying them as it's an expected you know, my family's military 18 years, we've been in the zone multiple times, we had that dinner table conversation too, it's like, that's really far, but we do have a great transportation department, wide buses, so we know those are going to be challenges, parents, and families, bring up. Any other guys that you have in the presentation?
Just add one, clean up, this is a challenge that I think we don't have a whole lot of control over necessarily, but just our surrounding roadways being prepared for new traffic flow in certain areas. So we're trying to take into consideration, is it easy and safe to get out and down a roadway or, you know, that kind of thing. So where we can take that into consideration for sure. Especially, there was a hot topic in the Wolf Ranch area on 29. Coming out and taking a left going west is tough. I suspect that gets alleviated in time as, you know, lights come in.
That's probably second to the rezoning, that's actually been here most times.
I love how you guys have gotten out in front of a lot of the problems already by including the community. I love that. I think this is going to be a lot smoother than possibly most rezonings are. And also, people hearing that they're being heard, or feeling they're being heard. Like this whole 29 taking a left on it, you know, I was approached with that by meeting people. Let's see what you guys know about that. I think it's going to go a long ways.
Hopefully you aren't getting a lot of comment about the whole topic misconception that's floated out there, because of the 150 community forum inputs, over 100 of them were about that, and that was just wrong information put out by someone else, and so that's unfortunate. So, but if you hear about that,
Yes.
please let them know that that was not us.
It's not accurate.
Have you gotten that cleaned up?
Trying. They've written some sort of a retraction letter that went out to the HOA. We sent out a letter, Dr. Apple sent out a letter, but we are still getting the very, and that's, I mean, I don't blame them. That's a pretty significant miscommunication that happened that would cause anyone to raise their eyebrows.
You know, ultimately, we realize with attendance rezoning, there's no such thing as everyone is 100% in satisfaction with the final recommendation we put out there. At the same time, just to speak to what Mr. Bird talked about, it's really important that we use this as an opportunity to show that we listen. And I can't say enough about Landon's leadership in this endeavor. If there's a great idea that has come out of version 8, I can't take any of that credit because before I even think it, Landon, Kirby, and Wes come back and they say, okay, so we worked on it, we can do that. And I think that says a lot about just our initiative.
Yeah, awesome.
I think just the transparency that you guys have all shown on the factors that you take into consideration really help the community understand that you guys have everyone's best interest in mind. There's nothing self-involved taking place, and it adds to people's faith in the LCC. So you're doing a great job.
Like going back to that key point where I ended up really interested in getting your thoughts at some point about crossroads of balance for non-zoning too long. That's ultimately the psychological goal. Okay.
Okay.
We are going to have our first board budget workshop today. Many more to come. So just kind of like this today, we just want to give kind of a general overview of the budget process and then give you an update of where we are on the So there are three main budgets that the board is required to approve each year. It's the general fund, which is our main operating fund, the administrative debt service fund, which is how we pay our principal and our interest for the bonds, and then our food service fund, which is how we pay for and receive income for our student fees. So we call these the big three because these are the three that the board is required to approve each year. We do have other district budgets that are not required to have board approval. We do report on these budgets and give you information, but you're not required to approve them each year. One is our capital bond issues, and then also our federal and our state and our local grants, which is called our special revenue funds. So those are important budgets to the district, but the board is not required to approve those. So just to kind of have an overview of the budget process, it is a year-round process, and we do amend the budget as needed throughout the year as we get information. And our fiscal year for Georgetown ISD runs July 1 through June 30. So now we're kind of finishing up the months of November and December, which is informing us for our coming up budget cycle for 24-25. We have received the most recent demographer reports. We know that the schedules for next year are being developed, those requests. Then in the coming months, January through March and this early spring, we will start preparing revenue projections based on the factors that we have. And then that will also have us reviewing our staffing needs and most importantly, prepare looking at our compensation models. In April, we receive our taxable values from the appraisal district. And then in May, we will have a very good preliminary budget to share with you. Then in June, that budget is brought to the board for approval. In July, we receive our final certified values from the appraisal district, which is a little tricky for us sometimes because we're working with preliminary for budget, but that's the way that it works. And then in October, the financial audit of the prior year is completed. So the major drivers for the budget that we're looking at is our strategic direction priority, which is to provide the most competitive compensation and benefits to employees that we can. We also need to keep in mind that we have a healthy fund balance and we need to sustain that fund balance. We are facing pressure on the basic allotment. It has not increased since 2019. As we know, there's been several different special sessions. There's one going on right now, but so far no relief. So we are still dealing with the funding that we've been receiving since 2019. And then, of course, our enrollment growth that we are serving our students. Just to kind of do a little overview of the general fund, the way the state and local funding works. We talk about our cup. So this is our cup. It is at the $6,160 per student still. This year, because we had property tax relief from the legislature, both the homestead exemption increased and the tax rate went down. So we're going to see less of a collection in property taxes, which we're going to talk about a couple of slides as we look at what I'm going to do on budget for this year. We're going to have less taxes, but we're going to be paying a lot less recapture as well. So the net effect is neutral, but because we're bringing in less taxes, we're paying less back to the state. And the major drivers on our state funding, of course, our enrollment, our average daily attendance, any special populations that we do receive weighted funding for, special education, Highland schools, things like that, and then our property values, our wealth, and what we need to send back in recapture. So let's just look at our tax rate history. This last column is the 23-24, the current year that we're in. You can see that the tax rate is $1.467. That is an increase from 2017-18 of over 36 cents. Decrease, excuse me. Decrease.
That looks lower.
Yeah, it is a decrease. The next slide is actually an increase. This is our property values. So as our tax rate has been going down, our property values have been going up. So the last column again is 23-24, and our tax values are at $20 billion, which is over an $11 billion increase from 2017-18. And that is even with that 8% exemption that the legislature passed. I have run into a few lawsuits, but somehow I feel like that is still going to, I don't think we're going to turn that around, but they did increase the homestead exemption. So let's look at where we are at the end of this year, or for 23-24, not the end yet, we're halfway through almost. So what I'd like to kind of point out is the first column is the 23-24 budget that was approved, the original budget that was approved, we approved in June. A lot has happened since June. The 23-24 projection, which is the second column, is kind of where we're sitting now. We've had 4 months of actual activity, actually 5. We haven't quite finished closing out November yet, but we're closing that out as we speak. And then there's the difference column, which is that third column. So I just want to highlight a couple of the major changes in the revenues. That top line property taxes, you can see that we budgeted $165 million. We're now projecting $129 million, which is a decrease of $36 million. And that is primarily because of the homestead exemption increasing, the tax rate increasing, and also our over 65 taxpayers were given an additional adjustment because when tax compression started back in 2019 or 2003, they had not been receiving that tax rate compression. So they passed Senate Bill 12, and that gave those taxpayers the same tax relief that other taxpayers have been receiving since 2019. So property taxes went down, and then if we go down midway to the page, and we go to expenditures, that recapture payment, we had budgeted at $49.6 million. We're now looking at $12.7 million. So again, that's a $36 million increase in what we will be sending back to the state. Sorry.
Increase in it is better.
Yeah. Increase, sorry, I'm not sure. That's brackets around it, it's a decrease. So we will be sending less money, a decrease back to the state. So then if you go down a little bit further, the difference, if you look at what we had originally budgeted, it was $5.8 million for a deficit. Based on projections, we're looking at more like $2.9 million for our deficit, which if you go down a little bit further, that would be a fund balance that would be 23.18% of our operating expenditures. And you recall that between 20 to 30% is our target. So we are within target. We are continuing to monitor the budget every month. So as we see enrollment increasing, we know our ADA is increasing. We have better attendance this year than last year. And we are controlling our costs. So we hope to see that deficit go down further as we get through the year more, but we have to wait to see what those factors are.
This is easy to understand, very complex with the changes that happened this year. Thank you.
Been working to try to, there's a lot of moving parts this year. School finance is fairly complex anyway, but this year especially has been there's been a lot of changes since June from legislatures. So we will continue to update you and bring you estimates on where we feel we're going to end in 23-24, and also we'll start talking more about 24-25.
Trustees, do you have any other questions on the budget before we move forward?
Thank you.
All the debt capacity is up to talk about when talking about the bonds.
That is correct. All right, trustees, we're going to transition into Terry.
Yep.
Sure, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break.
Ready to go.
Push through.
All right, trustees, we are back, and I'm really excited about the next presentation you're going to see from Tiffany Conrad and Terry Conrad, Tiffany Walker. Man, I am batting under 200. good carnage as well. So, Tiffany, or Terry, gonna hand it off to you.
Thank you, Dr. Popovich. So, here we go. So we are here today to talk to you about the work happening in Strategic Priority Area 1. So over the next 4 months, we're going to highlight the work that's happening in each of those strategic priority areas. So just as a reminder, this work has been happening since you all adopted our new strategic direction in March of 23. So Strategic Priority Area 1 is student learning, growth, and progress, and we've got that great picture of success there. And also just as a reminder, we separated that picture of success into a lot of objectives, but then you all and our community and our staff members helped us narrow that down, and there were actually 4 in this particular priority area that were highlighted as priority objectives for this year. So there's work happening in all of those areas. There's work happening outside of those priority objectives. This is where really the capacity was placed. I'm going to try and do my best. This is the work of thousands of people doing this work. I'm going to try and do my best to highlight some of the things that are going on. But also the purpose of this time is really to talk about the action steps that are happening. And we know in February we're going to do our very first mid-year report, strategic direction mid-year report. And that's really going to focus much more on the evidence collection that's been happening. But this is really, I want to highlight all of the work that has been going on in this area. And it'll still just scratch the surface. So just by the numbers, this is, all of this has been new in the way that we've been working with our strategic priority direction. So once that was adopted in March and those objectives were highlighted in May, really the work started taking off about what we were going to do with that. And this year, every campus was actually asked to pick one of those 4 priority objectives as a place that they were going to put extensive work. This is where they were doing what we've been calling our change engine work. And so by the numbers of our 19 campuses, 10 of them have their change engine focus on instruction, assessment, and intervention are aligned. 7 of them have it on monitoring progress of student mastery on the content, meeting standards, and developing attributes in the learner profile. And 2 of them have it on preparing students for post-secondary education in the workforce. Now, a lot of them also have like a 1B, that's another one of those, but these were the ones that they said, okay, this is where the absolute focus of the work is. And then as we're going to see, as we're trying to figure out how the best way to encapsulate the work that's happening on those campuses, plus the work in supporting the work on those campuses, it's really hard to really keep those separate as objectives because work about aligning instruction is going to impact whether kids are meeting standards. And so we're not going to talk about it as objective by objective, but really we sat and analyzed the supports that we are providing, and we put it into a couple categories here. So once the campuses started thinking about the work that they were going to do, they used their needs assessments and figured out where the highest priority work was going to happen. Then as a district, we had to figure out the systems and structures we needed to put into place in order to support that work. And as we've looked back at this semester, it's really fallen into these 3 categories of creating clarity, capacity building, and then building structures for collaboration. So that's how I'm going to highlight some of this work. So the first thing in creating clarity, as we were working with our campuses over the summer, there was a lot of feedback on it would be really nice if we just had something that said, or we had some clarity around. And so an extensive amount of work has been done in either updating documents that we already had or creating guiding documents that didn't exist that provide a lot of clarity on where there's autonomy and where we're going to hold things tight in the district with respect to instruction. So we've had a living learning document for several years now, but we added information about multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS, and you're going to hear a little bit more about that. We've created documents about our tiers of instruction and saying, okay, this is what we're holding tight and this is where you have autonomy. And got a lot of feedback on those from our campus staff. Our assessment team has worked a ton to create documents. One, they updated our balanced assessment framework. They also have created information about how to create common formative assessments, what we believe about those in Georgetown, how do you create good ones, how do you go through a data analysis protocol on those. They've also created protocols for all the other types of assessments that we have, like NWA math or our STAR interims or M class, so that when a team of teachers sits together, they have a standard set of questions and reports to look at that they know the best things to look at. Particularly on the emerging bilingual side, we're always updating our curriculum documents, but there was a particular need for our Spanish language arts teachers in K2, and so we've been updating those curriculum planners for this first semester. And then we found a need to really update the website so all of this could be housed in a way that was easy to find and accessible. So the GATE website has been updated as well. So this is,
Can I ask a question?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, would you go back over curriculum planners for SLARK? What is that?
Yeah, Spanish language arts and reading.
Okay.
So for our dual language teachers at that level, that's what they.
And what is the GATE website?
So the GATE is where we house all of our curriculum and instruction, assessment information for our teachers.
That's the name.
Yes. So this is just a snapshot of some of the guiding documents that we helped clean up or create starting here. But it doesn't really matter if we have good documents if people don't know about them. So where this went was an extensive amount of professional learning this fall. So we spent time in our district leadership team, DLT, going through the changes we've done this over multiple months. And really, to me, the point of that time was, it's great that you, heck, I hope you know that these exist, but if you don't really know what's in them or what they mean, and I'm just a proponent that if you can't explain it in an elevator speech or in 5 simple sentences, then it's not really a useful document. So what you see here is a lot of creation of anchor charts, which is people trying to synthesize this information so that they know it's there, but can also explain it. And so we've done this with our DLT team, but also all of our assistant principals and our learning design coaches. And then those people have taken them back to their teams so that they can work through understanding these documents as well. Beyond that capacity building, there's been quite a bit, so I'm going to hand this over to Tiffany to talk about most of those options.
So in relation to our special programs in particular, special education and bilingual education, there's been a whole lot of work that's been done because, and this kind of was what Terry was talking about where the campuses are focusing on those first 3 priority objectives. But the fourth one is also around state assessments and state gauging of our performances and so forth. But one of the things that we're really proud of and excited about is that we're starting to see that the work that we're doing is paying off. Like we've been having quarterly PLCs with our special education teachers in particular, giving them the opportunity to collaborate, work together, and determine what do they need to do to make sure that students are accessing their grade level curriculum at the highest extent possible. And so they've done a lot of work around that. In our dual language, kind of the same thing. They have opportunities throughout the year to come together and work across the districts to make sure that the instruction they're providing is aligned on every campus. They work together to create those engaging lessons and to make sure students are learning. And then as far as we also set up specific tutoring, in particular with our secondary, middle school has really seen gains in their student performance because they've been able to provide very specific and targeted tutoring and instruction to help students bridge gaps. So what we're really excited about is we got our RDA and we don't have those little instructions to create more plans, which means that we're doing better, our students are doing better, and as a result it shows that the work that all of our people are doing is just really, it's improving experiences for kids and raising their level of achievement. And so we're really super excited about that. And while it's the 3 objectives, it actually fills in on that 4th objective too. And then the dual language lesson support coaching, we have a dual language coach and we have we have a dual language coach and we have special education coaches that are really getting into the work with teachers and helping them create experiences. And on our special ed side, they're helping to align student goals with their learning. And on the DL side, they're just working with teachers to use language acquisition skills with students and just raising their improvement. Targeted instruction, we've provided a lot of learning for our non-dual, like our ESL teachers who are not Spanish speakers, but they have to use learning strategies for students to better grasp the learning in English. So I know, I'm sorry, I get talking real fast, but I'm really excited about the work that we do because we're seeing the results and kids are just doing better, their confidence is growing, and anyway, that makes me excited, so sorry if I already. Anyway, that's fun.
In addition to that, we've been doing a ton of training on resources or specific frameworks for content areas that might have a specific instructional strategy that we want people to understand. I'm really excited. This is the first year that we've been able to bring back our first year teacher support days. So in 18, 19, and 1920, we started doing these days that brought first year teachers in all together with their mentors. They got a full day. We really were able to support them in the needs of being a first year teacher. And then obviously with COVID, and then even after COVID, it was nearly impossible to bring in that many people because of sub situations. But the need was still there. And so we kept hearing from our campuses if there was any way, and they did a stellar job in the gap trying to do that work on their own campus. But this is our first year that we've actually been able, and we had to rearrange things and are doing on 4 different days and splitting the groups small so that we're keeping our sub numbers low. But it's a time for us to get first year teachers in. And so I was even thinking about that driving in this morning, and I mean, that basically means anybody since the 2020 school year is still a new teacher. I mean, those last several years, that we just weren't able to provide them with those same supports, and so I'm really glad that that's starting to happen again. And then we've had 2 issues of the GATE newsletter that have gone out in October and November. We'll have another one coming out, and that's just a way for us to spread information that we hope people are looking at, highlight really good instruction that's happening on campuses. And another piece of feedback that we received from our LDCs and our principals was, because we're seeing an increase in the number of teachers coming in with alternative certification, maybe not coming through a traditional program, we really are trying to find ways where we can build their teacher toolbox of just good instructional strategies. So part of the GATE is also trying to just give them good, content neutral, you can use this in any classroom, ways to get kids to talk, ways to get kids to summarize information, and that's one of the things we're thinking about too for our February grade day, of just trying to help provide some structure around that.
So a multi-tier system of support, so in the education world, that's just how we believe we do school, right? We have a system in place that allows for a guaranteed and viable curriculum to be delivered. And this year we really were very intentional about how we were going to move that work forward. And so in doing so, we partnered with Solution Tree, and we developed what we in Georgetown are calling essential intervention standards. And of the hundreds of standards teachers are asked to teach, they go through a criteria process with each unit or quarterly to see with their teams to determine what standards are going to be guaranteed for learning. Because some standards are more important than other standards. And so the essential intervention standards is new learning for our campuses and for our teachers. And these teams of teachers have identified these guarantees and are moving forward either with intervention if students aren't showing mastery in the standards, or extension if they have shown mastery. So we're super excited about that work. In July, we launched that work at DLT, and then we continued that work in August and September. And we continue it through just our DLT time, through some of the work that Terry already mentioned. Our coordinators, all our teams across Georgetown ISD, our LDCs, they're launching that work with camps, support days, design days, learning labs, that sort of thing. And then we've also brought back our learning walks. So this year, what a learning walk is just an opportunity to go visit classrooms and get a glimpse of what's going on instructionally and behaviorally in a classroom. It's not, the walks themselves, you're not spending an extraordinary amount of time, like 5 to 7 minutes in a classroom. This year we provided an opportunity for our campuses to volunteer to participate with some of us in learning walks. 14 of our campuses have said yes to that, and up to about now, we have 2 more learning walks this week. But I haven't counted specifically, but I'm thinking we've visited about 90 classrooms. And so that's been really exciting to see some of the trends in Georgetown. Our principals have identified specific academic targets they wanted to look for when they're walking classrooms, as well as behavior targets. And so we're leaning on previous learning from emergent tree and capturing kids' hearts, as well as our learning around our curriculum and instruction on Georgetown.
Right, so following into collaboration, we've had one particular area that there's been a lot of intentionality around, and that's providing support in building a kind of very specific set of collaboration, which is the professional learning community. So I'm sure you've heard that acronym a lot. It's one of those interesting things where, you might think, why do I need to be trained to know how to collaborate? But this is really about, I mean, it's interesting, but it really is about a mindset and a behavior about we get together and we problem solve together and we learn together, because more brains are better than one, and that's the way that we believe that good student learning happens, is when we get together to be able to discuss those things and ensure that students are learning what we need them to learn. So several of our campuses, this is really their priority work right now, is establishing the culture and processes for PLCs, because things like MTSS can't happen if you don't have a good structure of collaboration in the first place, where the behaviors that people have when they come together. So we've been working on that. We did learning around that in DLT as well. Additional collaboration, I'm going to hand it over to Wes.
So with that collaboration, not to be too corny, but the root word of co-laboring, and so these are some areas where we've got different folks and teams that are sharing in the work. A lot of this falls into the third primary objective, being post-secondary, ready for post-secondary education and the workforce. And so just a few highlights, but before jumping into that, I want to call your attention to the reality of our learning design coaches, our coordinators, really getting out into the field and collaborating with teacher teams, with campus leaders as well. And so that is a felt resource. It's kind of a blend between capacity building and collaboration, so getting in there and sharing in the work. Additionally, our campus is working cross-campus together, so campus teams from one elementary and another elementary working together, whether they're doing vertical alignment or horizontal alignment. So just another example there. Some continued collaboration and success around the Texas Succession Initiative. Preparation and testing, this is a way that our students are identified as college ready. This also is a way that opens doors open to our students, whether that's for college readiness courses in high school or college level access after high school. There's been some programs purchased and implemented into the classroom so that students are being prepared for that as part of a curricular experience in addition to outside of the classroom. You might have seen we had a future readiness fair in October that brought in over 130 college reps as well as workforce reps. So this was a future readiness fair, not just your typical college fair. Students and parents were able to work with those individuals and find opportunities. That was a collaborative process between all of our secondary campuses as well as our future readiness team. Our fine arts design team, pictured down here on the bottom right, has been kind of leading an effort to try to understand what types of opportunities our students in fine arts should be getting in order to become more future ready. I don't know that anybody would ever say that or argue against the point that fine arts is an incredible way for students to become future ready. And so this is an effort that Ms. Watson has been leading to really tease out what are the things that are leading our students into becoming more future ready through the lens of fine arts. So excited to share more on that in February. And then a couple of few more highlights is bringing kind of the post-secondary world back into the current high school world. So there was a GHS hosted a senior day where alumni from, we had a university alumni, we had an ACC alumni, we had a student who's in the workforce who obtained an industry-based certification in Georgetown and is working at an auto shop locally, as well as a student who is in the National Guard. Those students came back and spoke with students and staff on just kind of the realities of the post-secondary world and what are some things to be thinking about before you step into that world. So it was a neat experience. In that same vein, we've had over 20 college presentations and recruiter visits to Eastview as well. So just getting more folks in the door so that our students are more aware of the opportunities after high school. And starting a little bit earlier even, we've got a 7th grade career fair coming in January. That'll be at the Sheridan. So all of our 7th graders in Georgetown will be able to access a career fair in January. We're excited about, so a new opportunity. So just some ways that the collaboration of whether it's our community partners or university partners or district staff or campus staff, so forth, that just bring more opportunities for our kids.
So the last slide is just telling you, looking forward. We are doing more learning walks, and this time we're going to specifically include our special education bilingual 540 dyslexia behavior and teaching learning assessment teams. Jen and her team are doing incredible work leading the teaching and learning department, and they saw a need for another avenue to get resources to our principals, APs, and LDCs, and so she's going to be launching a little bit of a Learn and Lead, which is just-in-time support. So it's a Google Meet that people can hop on if they've got questions around MTSS or things that are happening on their campus, because it's hard for them to get off their campus, and so she wanted to create an opportunity for that to happen. We'll be getting in our MOI data soon, and so we'll be going through our middle of the year analysis and our protocols around that to see, to gather some evidence on what's working and if there's things that need to be adjusted. We'll have another first-year teacher support day in February, so I'm excited, looking forward to that. February 19th is our big GISD Grow Professional Learning Conference, so we actually kicked off our planning for that on Friday. I'm trying to make that meet the needs of our teachers and keep this work going. And then lastly, as we're looking at all of this, we're analyzing and deciding whether we need to make any adjustments to the courses that we're going forward with, the actions that we're doing, and any changes for next steps. So that's what's happening in February 1. What questions can I answer? For anyone?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the walking teams coming back.
Yeah.
We used to do that, and boy, that is so impactful for us that aren't on the campus to see what's going on in the classroom. So, yay.
I'm really gonna just extend appreciation to our teachers. I know we've tried to keep the team small so it's not like 8 people turning into a classroom, that sort of thing. And so, but I mean, being married to an educator, it's intimidating, and it, makes your heart skip a beat just for a second, even though we might be seasoned teachers. So
When we were up in El Paso and Canutillo for Leadership TASB, and there was like 30 of us going in and out of classrooms. It's, well, they were coming, but it was amazing the kind of thing that you can observe when you're going in and out of the classrooms and how comfortable the kids were actually with these strange people coming in.
And that is the goal, to kind of create a culture where this is just normal and, everyone's comfortable, no one kind of leaks when visitors come into the
That's
culture.
right. Yeah, there was one of the PLCs. Every time I go over to Frost, because I'm a volunteer reader over there, I see them in their PLCs, and boy, it's something loud in there, like they're really engaged. So I'm excited about that too.
Instructional stuff going on. I'd like to hear more about the MTSS. Is the goal to understand, because some of the standards are pretty complex. Is that the goal of MTSS? If you could explain more about that, because I think that's really critical. I'd like to see some
a partnership, right?
Right.
MTSS wouldn't really thrive without an avenue, and the avenue is BLCs.
Right.
And so in that time, our teachers are really encouraged to analyze 4 questions. What do students need to learn? How will they learn it? What do we do if they don't? And what do we do if they do, right?
So they take the individual standard. Is that what you're talking about when they ask this full question?
Well, they first look at their curriculum documents, which
Right.
we've always done, and within our curriculum documents, we have focus teaks. And then within the focus teaks, they're identifying of those focus teaks, what is essential. And our push this year, since this is, the essential part is new, is don't do too many because it's too hard. And you need to feel confident and comfortable with the process. And so if they're identifying 4 essential standards a year, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but we're guaranteeing that those 4 essential standards are what students will walk away from a course or content knowing and learning.
And that's a really good explanation, and maybe at a future workshop or board meeting, we can peel back the onion, pop the hood, and just really kind of show what this looks like.
That would be great. That would be great. This is great stuff. Yeah.
Trustees, any other questions for Carrie and the team?
Great job, thank you.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank Terry for her leadership here. You know, attendance zones are important, budget's important, facilities are important, but this is the most important work of the school district. It's the most complex, because we don't actually get to work with students between district leaders and principals, but we have the task of, just like she laid out, creating clarity, improving capacity, and collaboration. So just really appreciate all the work you're doing.
Right.
Right, at our future board meeting on December 18th, we have a budget amendment that will come to you on consent, resolution for non-business days, and course guide additions as well. You'll have an action item presented by Mr. Vanacek on consideration and action to approve 24-25 school calendar. And unless there are any other questions, we will adjourn. All right, thank you, Trustee.